Hello friends, I'm Sujit Rukari. I'm one of the directors of this institute. Basically, I'm mechanical engineer. I have completed my engineering in year 2004, and after that I appeared for UPSC from 2004 to 8. I gave 4 attempts in which I was qualified for interview twice, okay, but unfortunately I could not get selected. And from the last 10 years, okay, I'm in this field. I'll be teaching you geography from the GS1, then environment topic and disaster management topic from GS3, as well as few topics of economy, okay, which are also part of GS3. Purpose of today's lecture is to understand the syllabus of geography, how to deal with it, what are the types of questions asked, for which we will refer to some previous year questions, and if the time allows, in the end we will also refer to the books that you need to read to cover your syllabus. In between, okay, if you have doubts, okay, we can also take up those. So let us start with the approach of geography in GS. Basic question: what is geography? Simple definition is geography is the science that studies the landforms, inhabitants, and phenomena of Earth. So let us explain this sentence. Now, here we have said that geography is a science, and if you know, there are two types of sciences: social science and natural science. We have not specified here what type of science geography is, okay, because I believe geography has elements from both the social and natural science. Social science, for example, history, economy, sociology, political science, and natural sciences, for example, physics, chemistry, biology, etc. And geography has combination of both. How that you will eventually understand. Now here the definition says it is a science that studies number one, landforms, number two, inhabitants, and number three, phenomena of Earth. So number one, landforms. There are basically three types or orders of landforms. Earth is spherical, but it is not uniform surface. On the Earth, there are some uplying parts and low-lying parts. Uplying parts are continents, and low-lying parts where water accumulates are called as oceans. So these two, continents and oceans, are considered as the first order landform. Within the continents, you can find second order landforms such as mountains, plateaus, plains, etc. And within the mountains or plateaus, you can find third order landforms. For example, if you visit Himalayas, you will notice several valleys created by rivers, or you may find rivers are jumping over waterfalls, or they are called as cataracts and rapids. So they become third order landforms. So this is how geography studies three orders or three types of landforms. In the definition, the second point is inhabitant. Geography studies inhabitants, which means you and me. Not only us, not only the human inhabitants on the earth's surface, but also all the organisms, all the plants and animals. Now, that doesn't mean we have to study millions of species, okay, which are there on the earth surface. Okay, we need to understand the basic things, okay, like the types of vegetation, or the significance of wildlife, how it is threatened, okay, what needs to be done for their conservation. So that is a specialized study in environment. So this is how, okay, we study inhabitants. And as I said, inhabitants also include you and me. So we will study to which race we belong to, which religion we profess, the languages that we speak, our cultures, our social activities, our economic activities are also studied in geography. So this is how geography studies inhabitants. And lastly, in the definition, it says geography studies phenomena of earth, geophysical phenomena. For example, monsoon is very significant phenomena, due to which the lifestyle of Indian people, their economy, their politics is influenced. Then cyclones, earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, okay, these are known as phenomena of earth. So there are several geophysical phenomena, okay, that we have to study as a part of geography. So I hope with this, you have understood the basic meaning or what is studied in geography. It is the science that studies the landforms, inhabitants, and phenomena of Earth. Geography as a discipline, geography as a subject can be split broadly into two main subsidiary fields. Or I can say there are two branches of geography: physical geography and human geography. So first, we need to distinguish between these two branches, what comes under them, and then we will see in our syllabus whether we have physical geography or human geography or the both. The former, that is physical geography in this list. Physical geography examines or it studies the natural environment and how organisms, climate, soil, water, and landforms produce and interact. Physical geography examines the natural environment. So it is specified here. The kind of environment studied in physical geography is natural. Means there must be some other types of environments. So that other type of environment is built environment. So there are two types: built environment and natural environment. First of all, what is environment? The simple definition is physical conditions surrounding an organism is an environment. Now say I am an organism. Physical conditions surrounding me. Okay, I am sitting somewhere in a room, okay, with a laptop or some media in front of me. There are lights, okay, around me, okay, tables and chairs, etc. So this is the environment I am sitting in, or these are the conditions surrounding me. Now this is example of built environment, okay, because it is created by us human beings. On the other hand, think of a tiger in a jungle. Now, the surroundings of that tiger are totally different from us. Okay, all around that tiger are number of trees, grasslands. Okay, maybe there are some mountains, water bodies, etc. Now, those are the natural or physical conditions surrounding that organism, that is tiger. Now that is not built environment. That is example of natural environment. So these are there are two types of environments: built and natural environment. And in physical geography, we have to study natural environment. And within this natural environment, we need to understand how organisms, okay, including us, all the plants, animals, then how the climate functions, how the soils are created, what are the sources of water, how the water moves, okay, through uh, the earth system, how the landforms are created, and how all these things interact with one another. So that is the subject matter of physical geography. So we were talking about the two branches of geography, physical and human geography. So this is physical geography. And the later, that is human geography, focuses on the built environment, okay, which is created by human beings. Physical geography studies natural environment, and human geography, as the name suggests, human, studies that environment which is created by humans, and how humans create, view, manage, and influence space. Now understand this. Here, the term space doesn't mean the outer space, what lies beyond the atmosphere. It doesn't mean that space where our satellites are launched. Here in geography, space simply means Earth's surface. So in geography, we are concerned about what is where. Okay, we study things which are on the Earth's surface. So this term space in geography is used for Earth's surface. And as we study the phenomena which happen or which are seen on the Earth's surface, they are called as spatial phenomena. Spatial or spatial, okay, spelled as Spatial. Okay, I'm not saying spatial, I'm saying spatial or spatial, Spatial. So spatial phenomena or spatial aspect means which are related to space, and in geography, space means Earth surface. Uh, in history, you study temporal aspects related to time. Okay, you need to understand the chronology. Similarly, in geography, we study spatial aspect. Okay, those aspects or those phenomena which are related to space, that is Earth surface. So here in human geography, we study built environment and how the humans create this environment, how the humans influence this environment, manage this environment, etc. For example, we clear the jungle, we cut down the trees in a forest, and then we till the soil, we sow the seeds, and we start growing crops. So that patch of land, okay, which was earlier occupied by trees. So as long as it was part of that forest, it was example of natural environment. But the moment we cleared the forest, we cut down the trees and we started cultivating, we started sowing seeds and started growing crops. That patch of land is converted from natural environment to built environment, because now this is created by humans. So this is how we influence the space. Okay, this is how we alter the Earth's surface. Okay, from natural to built environment. So wherever there are built environment in the forms of agricultural fields, in the form of factories, in the form of cities, villages, that becomes example of built environment, and that is studied in human geography. So this is how geography as a subject is divided into two branches: physical geography and human geography. We can elaborate further. The difference between these approaches led to a third field, environmental geography, which combines physical and human geography and looks at the interaction between environment and humans. So apart from physical and human geography, there can be a third field in the geography that is called as environmental geography, because it combines the both physical and human aspect. But in our syllabus, we have to study environmental geography as a separate subject. In GS3 syllabus, there is a topic called as environment. So it will be studied separately. Even if you see the prelim syllabus, you will find geography and environment are mentioned as two distinctive topic. So we are not going to study environmental geography as a part of geography. That will be studied as ecology. So now you have understood what is physical geography and human geography. Let us further elaborate on these two terms, starting with physical geography. Physical geography focuses on geography as an earth science. The term used here is earth science. I already explained why geography is mentioned as a science, okay, having both the social and natural science aspects. Now it is called as earth science. If you know, we have a separate ministry in government of India known as Ministry of Earth Science. So okay, whenever you get time, okay, just go to the website of Ministry of Earth Science and just look at the activities carried out by that ministry. So geography as an earth science aims to understand the physical problems and issues of lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere, and global flora and fauna. Flora means plants, fauna means animals, also called as biosphere. So basically, physical geography is the study of four spheres. Lithosphere, which means the solid earth surface, the land surface, continents. Litho means rocks. Hydrosphere, where hydro means water, all the water occupied areas, okay, all the oceans are the study of hydrosphere. Then geography studies atmosphere. Atmo refers to air. Atmosphere is the mixture of gases, okay, basically air surrounding the earth's surface. You will study in detail, okay, the structure and composition of atmosphere. So in physical geography, lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere is studied, and also all plants and animals which occupy these spheres. And all plants and animals together are called as biosphere. And also remember that sometimes the word biosphere, the term biosphere, is also used to refer the entire earth system. So you need to see the context in which the term biosphere is used. Sometimes biosphere means only all the plants and animals, and some other times biosphere means entire earth system, that is lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere, plus all organisms, all plants and animals living in there. So this is how physical geography is the study of natural environment. And on the other hand, human geography, the second branch of geography, focuses on the study of patterns and processes that shape human interaction with various environments. It encompasses human, political, cultural, social, and economic aspects. Under human geography, what we study is nothing but political geography, economic geography, socio-cultural geography. Now, human aspects, for example, the population related aspects. How many people on the earth surface, or how many people in India, and the data, okay, about the population of India is collected as census. So basically in human geography, we study the census data, we analyze that data to understand distribution of population in India. Not only that, we need to understand what different types of languages are spoken by Indian people, which different religions they profess, uh, their demographic attributes. Demographic means related to population, and demographic attributes means their birth rate, death rate, growth rate of population, things related to migration, sex ratio, literacy, etc. So all these things are studied in human geography, or they are known as human aspects. Secondly, geography studies political aspects, or that sub branch is known as political geography. For example, any geographical setting has influence on the politics. India is located in North Hemisphere. India is located in Asia. Within Asia, India is a part of South Asia. And if you have seen the location of India on globe on the map, you will notice India is at the head of Indian Ocean. Now, being at the head of Indian Ocean, wherein part of our landmass is surrounded by Indian Ocean from three sides. Now, there must be some advantages as well as disadvantages having this location, and there must be some political aspects related to it. So, that is studied under political geography. Or if you have heard about Siachen Glacier, glacier means river of ice, and this particular glacier, Siachen Glacier, is considered as highest battlefield in the world. In very harsh climatic conditions, armies of India and Pakistan are standing face to face. Now, this location is at more than 15,000 feet from the mean sea level. Conditions are so cold that temperature dip to minus 30-40 degree Celsius. And even in these conditions, our armies are stationed there because it is having some significance. That location is significant because it is at the tri-junction of India, Pakistan, and China. It is here or near this glacier, boundaries of three countries come together. And this is highline feature. So the one who controls the Siachen Glacier also controls the surrounding areas, okay, which are the border areas and very sensitive. So this is how a particular geographical feature can have influence in political aspects. And this relation is studied in political geography, which is part of human geography. Human geography also studies socio-cultural aspects. Cultural aspects are those which are related to individual. As an individual, you or me, we speak a particular language. We belong to particular religion, caste. We have our own clothing pattern. So these aspects which are related to an individual are called as cultural aspect. On the other hand, social aspects are related to group of a people. When people come together, when they start interacting as a society, okay, then it becomes social aspects. So this subfield is known as social geography. And lastly, in human geography, economic aspects are studied. Now, for our economic or for our livelihood, okay, we undergo several economic activities. We may be engaged in agriculture or mining or fishing. Now, these are the primary activities. Or we may be engaged in some manufacturing activities. We may be working as factory workers or factory managers. These are the secondary activities. Or we may be involved in some service sector industry, okay, offering services to other people, okay, as a source of our livelihood. So these are the economic aspects, okay, in which humans take part in. They are studied as a part of human geography. So I hope you have understood, okay, what is geography, what is the scope of geography. Okay, so if I briefly revise, okay, I have told you that geography is a science that studies the landforms, that studies inhabitants and phenomena of Earth. Geography as a science is divided into two broad fields: physical geography and human geography. Physical geography is related to natural environment. It studies lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere, and biosphere. On the other hand, human geography is related to built environment, which is created by man, humans. And here we study economic geography, political geography, social geography, and we study demography, that is population geography. So these are the two branches of geography, and in our syllabus we have topics from both these fields. So now let us see the syllabus of geography to understand how we have to study both physical and human geography. So in the mains exam syllabus, geography comes in GS1 along with history, culture, and social issues. In GS1, look at the topics. One of the syllabus topics is population and associated issues, urbanization, their problems, and their remedies. Now remember that this topic is included as a part of social issues in the syllabus. It is not part of geography, but I have included here because you have to study this topic from both the angles, geographical as well as sociological. Geographical angle means what is where. So when we study population and associated issues, we have to study how the population of India is distributed, okay, throughout its states and union territories. So what is where is a part of geography, and its analysis, sociological analysis, is studied as a part of social issues. For example, uh, now we are currently undergoing the process of census. Data is being collected, and approximately, okay, it is believed that there are 135 crore people in India. Now, if India is divided broadly into North and South India, you will find most of this population is in North. Now, you need to understand the analysis why more population in North as compared to South. And this can be explained both geographically as well as sociologically. Geographical explanation is North India having fertile soil created by Ganga and its rivers, and it has very long history of civilization, supports more population simply because the geographical factors are favorable, that is fertile soil. So this is how we explain more population in north as compared to south with the help of geographical aspect. There is also sociological aspect to it. For example, North India is comparatively more orthodox, and South India is less orthodox. Or we can explain this with the help of the status of women given to in North and South Indian societies, or if you can see the literacy rate of North and South India. This will explain why the birth rate is more in North India as compared to South India, and that is why there are more people in North than in South. So this is how population and associated issues are studied both geographically as well as sociologically. Then there is another topic here is urbanization. Simply means the process by which more and more people start living in cities. It is the process by which people move from the rural areas to urban areas. Okay, this process is called as urbanization. Now, if you know of the total population of India, how many reside in cities, that percentage is quite low. I'm saying low when compared to the world average. As per the census 2011 data, census 2011 data, about 31% population of India lives in cities. So rest 70% population still lives in villages, in rural areas. Now this percentage is quite low because the world average is more than 52%. For entire world, now majority population or more people are living in cities. More than 52% population of the world lives in cities. Whereas in India, only 31% population lives in cities. But 31% of about 130 crore, that comes around 40 crores. 30% of 130 crore lives in cities. This comes to 40 crores. So 40 crore population of India lives in cities, in urban areas, and this is more than total population of USA. So this is how level of urbanization is low, but in absolute numbers, 40 crore people live in cities, and it is growing, okay, as we are speaking. Okay, now more and more people are shifting to urban areas and living in cities. So we need to understand this process of urbanization, the problems created, okay, due to this process, and how to deal with those problems, because we consider cities as the growth engines of our economy. If you see the share of uh, agriculture, share of manufacturing, and share of services in the GDP of India, you will find the majority, okay, almost 80%, more than 80% share is that of manufacturing and services. And these activities are not found in rural areas. These activities are carried out in cities, in urban areas. That's why cities are called as growth engines of economy, and therefore it is imperative to understand the process of urbanization taking place in India, their problems and remedies. So again, okay, let me tell you this thing. This topic is not included as a part of geography in your syllabus. It is included as a part of social issues, but we need to study it from geographical angle also. Now let us see the topics which are specifically mentioned as a part of geography syllabus. The first topic here is salient features of the world's physical geography. Salient main features of the world's physical geography. So this topic asks you to specifically study physical geography, world ka physical geography, and we have just understood what is meant by physical geography: hydrosphere, lithosphere, atmosphere, etc. So the world's physical geography means basically uh, you have to study this from your atlas. Say you open up the map of Asia in front of you, physical map of Asia, and on this physical map of Asia, you have to locate all the physical features. For example, where are the mountains, plateaus, plains, deserts, rivers, lakes, etc. And not only the factual study, not only just locating where things are, understanding the logic behind it, why things are located where they are. For example, on the map of Asia, when you see the location of Himalaya, which is the tallest mountain in the world, and if you know, Himalaya is also known as youngest mountain in the world. There are different types of mountains. Himalaya is considered as an example of fold mountain. Now, when you analyze the position of Himalaya on the map, you need to go to the science of the formation of mountains. The science is plate tectonics. Origin and location of all the mountains on the Earth's surface are explained by plate tectonic theory. So once you understand this concept, this science, then you will understand the location of Himalaya. Similarly, you have to understand the location and formation of deserts. Why deserts are located where they are? Uh, the fact is, all hot deserts, tropical deserts, are always found on the western side of continents. You see the map of any continent, you will find the concentration of deserts towards the western side, western coast, in the tropical location. That is between 30° north latitude to 30° south latitude. This is called as tropical location on the Earth surface. So why deserts are always found on the western side will be understood once you understand the climatology, or weather and climate and their elements and control. So eventually you will come to know about that. So this is the topic of this is the syllabus topic under geography, features of world's physical geography. Then the topic is distribution of key natural resource across the world, including South Asia and Indian subcontinent. Distribution, because we are studying geography. Geography is study of what is where, that is distribution. And distribution of what? The key natural resources. Resource are those things which fulfill human needs and human wants. For example, water, for example, land, minerals, energy, etc. These are example of natural resources. We need to understand their distribution on the surface of Earth across the world. And syllabus in bracket says including South Asia and Indian subcontinent. So obviously, when we study distribution of resources across the world, it includes South Asia and Indian subcontinent by default. Then why it is mentioned separately in the syllabus? Maybe because we want to focus more on these areas while studying the resources. Now let us understand the difference between South Asia and Indian subcontinent. Though these terms are used interchangeably, there is a striking difference. South Asia includes 8 countries of the world. You must have heard about SAARC, that stands for South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. It has 8 member countries: Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Maldives. So if you keep a map of Asia in front of you, just locate these 8 countries, the outline of these countries. So this is nothing but South Asia. And how it is different from Indian subcontinent? There is no formal definition as such, but Indian subcontinent refers to those areas or those countries which were earlier part of British Empire. Now, before independence, there was British Indian government, which included the present India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. So these 3 countries were earlier part of British Indian government. So collectively, these 3 are known as Indian subcontinent. Okay, so this is the general, I'm not saying formal or dictionary difference of between South Asia and Indian subcontinent. So we need to study the distribution of natural resources. Then comes this topic, factors responsible for the location of primary, secondary, and tertiary sector industries in various parts of the world, including India. Factors responsible for the location of primary, secondary, and tertiary sector industry. Primary sector are related to resource extraction, extraction of raw material, agriculture, mining, fishing, forestry, or lumbering. These are called as primary activities. Okay, these give you raw material which goes to the secondary activity, secondary industry, that is manufacturing. So primary activities provide raw material which goes to the secondary manufacturing activities. Here, raw material is processed into a finished product. For example, agriculture gives you raw cotton. Agriculture gives you sugarcane. Raw cotton goes for further processing to cotton textile mills. Sugarcane goes for the further processing to sugar factories. So cotton textile mills industry or sugar factory, they're example of secondary activities where raw material is processed into a finished product. What is the finished product? Sugar, obviously, okay, from the sugar factories, and ready-made garments, clothes from the textile mills. Now, after the things are processed into finished product, the service industry or the tertiary sector industry provide the support so that it reaches the final consumers. When the garments are manufactured, when the clothes are manufactured, then you need to distribute them, you need to transport them to the market location. It goes to the distributor, it goes to the wholesaler, and then from retailer it goes to the end use consumers. So these activities, distribution, transportation, wholesaling, retailing, they come under tertiary sector industries. So this is the difference between primary, secondary, and tertiary sector industries. And syllabus wants you to understand the factors responsible for their location, because these activities are not randomly carried out or they are not located randomly anywhere. There are some factors which determine, for example, uh, primary activity, agriculture. Now, if you see the cultivation of wheat in India, you will notice only northwestern states, that is Punjab, Haryana, parts of UP, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, cultivate and produce wheat. Wheat is not cultivated throughout India. It is not cultivated in northeastern India, or wheat is not the main crop from South India, because the climatic conditions required for the wheat. Wheat is grown in cooler conditions. In North India, in winter, temperatures are quite low, okay, to the extent of around 5 to 10 degrees Celsius, which are conducive for cultivation of wheat. But South India, being closer to equator, South India being surrounded by water from three sides, doesn't record low temperatures even in winter season. It maintains its tropical condition, that is warmth, high temperature condition even in winter season, and therefore in such a conditions wheat cannot be grown. So this is how for all main crops which are grown in India, we have to understand the geographical conditions required for its cultivation, and that gives you location. and study of such a conditions is nothing but locational factors. Similarly, when we consider secondary industries, location of a particular industry is not random. If you see the distribution of steel industry, iron and steel industry in India, you will notice most of the large integrated iron and steel plants are in eastern India. That part on the map of India is well known as Chota Nagpur Plateau, which includes part of Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, and West Bengal. Now, why here? Because all the raw materials required for steel industry are abundantly found here. Raw materials include obviously iron ore, coal, limestone, silica, dolomite, manganese, etc. Now all these raw materials are processed, okay, into smelting industry to separate iron from its ore. Iron ore has several impurities. They are removed when the iron ore is heated with other raw materials with the help of coal. Once the impurities are removed, you get iron. This iron is then processed into steel. So it is a long process, requires lot of raw materials. And it is said about 10 to 12 tons of raw materials are processed just to get 1 ton of steel. So it is always better to set up steel industry where raw materials are found. And on the map of India, the raw materials that I have mentioned are mostly concentrated in Chota Nagpur Plateau, and that's why steel industry is located there. That doesn't mean you don't find steel plants or steel factories in other parts of India. Okay, they're also there, such as at the postal location for some different reasons. Okay, so this is how you have to understand the locational factors for a particular industry. And lastly, tertiary sector industries. Okay, for example, transport. So when we lay down the railway lines, okay, when we construct highways or when we use inland waterways for transportation purpose, okay, it is influenced by several factors. You will not find many rail lines in the Himalayas, okay, simply because in that mountainous terrain, it is not possible for the railways to tackle the steep gradient. But the roadways can easily tackle that gradient. So in the mountainous regions, you will find more road transport as compared to the rail transport. Okay, so this is how, okay, the geographical setting determine the particular transport found in the particular location. So this topic is part of our syllabus. Okay, so once we understand the natural resources, okay, where they are found, we can study the locational factors of different types of industry. The next topic in our syllabus is, and which is also the last topic, it says important geophysical phenomena such as earthquakes, tsunami, volcanic activity, cyclone, etc. Geographical features and their location, changes in such a geographical features, including water bodies, ice caps, flora, fauna, and effect of such a changes. Now understand this part of or this topic of syllabus. It says study of geophysical phenomena, and syllabus mentions phenomena such as earthquake, tsunami, volcano, cyclone, etc. So we have to study as many geophysical phenomena as possible for us. I was talking about the location of Himalaya in Asia. And to explain that location, okay, we have to understand the concept of plate tectonics. So this plate tectonics is nothing but geophysical phenomena. So even though it is not mentioned in the syllabus specifically, we have to study it. Monsoon is very important phenomena, not mentioned in the syllabus, okay, but still we need to study it. So there are n number of phenomena apart from, okay, what are mentioned in our syllabus. This is the core physical geography. Weather, climate, continental drift, plate tectonics, volcanism, etc. are studied in this topic. So even though this topic is mentioned as a last point in your syllabus, while studying geography, we have to start with this topic. Once we understand the basic concept, then only we can understand the second topic, features of the world's physical geography. So you don't study as per the sequence given in your syllabus. You have to start with studying geophysical phenomena first, then only you can understand the world's physical geography, means the physical features on the map of world. Once you understand different continents, position of different countries, then only you can understand the distribution of key natural resources. And once the resources are studied, you can study the factors responsible for the location of several industries. So this is how, okay, you study the syllabus. Okay, this is the sequence. Apart from the geophysical phenomena, okay, syllabus says geographical features and their location. So mountains, plateaus, plains, deserts, lakes, rivers, these are the geographical features. Okay, we study such a features and their location on the map as a part of world's physical geography. Then syllabus says changes in these physical features. For example, somewhere the glaciers are retreating. Okay, means they're shrinking in size. Somewhere lakes are disappearing. Okay, somewhere forests are getting disappeared. At some coastal locations, sea levels are rising and coastal plains are getting submerged. These are the changes we are talking about. And if you have guessed correctly, all these changes are outcome of global warming, also called as climate change. So this topic is nothing but detailed study of climate change, okay, and its effect on us, on humans as well as flora and fauna. So this is the main exam syllabus of geography, okay, which is given in GS1. I hope okay, you have understood, okay, what I wanted to tell you. Okay, today we will restrict, okay, our discussion uh, till this point only. Okay, we are yet to understand the geography related topics which are there in GS3. We are yet to understand the geography syllabus in prelims, and we need to discuss the questions, okay, that are asked in prelims and mains, and after which, okay, we will discuss about the reference books. Okay, apart from the class notes, okay, you have to study some or you have to refer to some books. Okay, तो ये बाद में आएगा.